Good morning and welcome to the 50-cent tour of Tuesday, May 28th, 2013. Hope that you had a pleasant holiday weekend and got some nice rest and recreation. Please find a seat on the Liberty Bus and we will try to catch up with the news, some of the significant things that have been going on. I do want to focus on Monsanto. 2 million people in 52 countries march against Monsanto. Yay. Hey, Monsanto, did you hear that? So it was pretty much of a success. Protesting against Monsanto is an important and symbolic act and does wonders to energize the movement for food and farm freedom. So we did not go ourselves, but it was a smashing success, I would say. Just as a reminder, Monsanto hires infamous mercenary firm Blackwater to track activists around the world. So, protest Monsanto stuck by Blackwater. But hey, what are they going to do to 2 million people? I mean, as we rise up together and say no, we're not going to be treated like this anymore. A little more of where they are, manifesting themselves, though. Facebook wages censorship war against moms of autistic children who protest GMOs. Exclusive interview with Andrea Lama. And these photos, you may have seen some of them if you're on Facebook, they censored them. They said that Facebook suspended the account of a mom of 2 autistic children who held anti-GMO signs at the recent rally, and documented Facebook censoring multiple accounts for sharing a photo Facebook absurdly called abusive. And the children it's a photo of 2 children holding up handmade signs at the March Against Monsanto. And they called this abusive, and evidently they flagged the mother's Facebook account. Censor the account of the mom, Andrea Lama. Strange, isn't it? Like, how is this photo abusive? It's not like that sign weighs 50 pounds or something. Of course, it's absurd. I won't even go into how absurd it is. But what I do want to just remind us all is that Facebook, YouTube, some of these sites are nothing without you and me. No thing. If we didn't put our content into Facebook, YouTube, and some of the other sites that offer similar kinds of networking and sharing, they wouldn't exist. They're not investing, they're not putting any content. See, this is the kind of the secret that we don't even talk about that much, that we don't focus on. We feel like we want to stay in the good graces of Facebook and YouTube and others so that we can continue to post. They should be concerned about staying in our good graces, because if we don't put anything there, there is nothing there. We are the creative force. You and I are the creative force behind Facebook and behind YouTube. We are the ones who put the content there. So they need to remember, and we went there and we can just as easily leave there. And this John Rappaport blog is focused on the individual, and I want to put this with the idea that Facebook and YouTube need us, because even though the cabal, The social engineers want to destroy the individual. Without the individual, there is no interest, there is no light, there is no source. You know, God breathed his life into Adam, and it's God's life breathed into us that gives us a spark. And it's our spark that lights some of these other these places. And it's the spark of the individual. And it's important to realize that we have value as individuals because we are created in the image and likeness of God. And if we surrender our individuality, we are surrendering a piece of the manifestation of God. Think of God as light, and all of us together are the diamond, and each of us is a side of the diamond that makes the sparkle, that brings the light out, that becomes a prism that casts a rainbow. So don't ever feel insignificant. I hope I should try not to say, give direct directives. I hope that you will never feel insignificant and never let them take your individuality. This I have in here because, it's tough to catch up with news after a 3-day break, and I had to do some sifting, but I think that this is important. Vatic alert is Kokesh Cointelpro. Read this and decide. Adam Kokesh, in case you don't know, is planning an armed march on Washington on July 4th. It has been very controversial. A lot of people in the liberty movement are not comfortable with it because it feels more combative than we want to be. Just so you know, the Oath Keepers are not behind Adam Kokesh and his plan for July 4th. And this is interesting information. We always need to take everything with a grain of salt. And unfortunately, we don't want to walk around suspicious, but we always have to exercise discernment and not take for granted that anybody is a good guy. I mean, I think this is one thing that's developing us as a people as we go through this season, is we are redeveloping our own ability to discern and to read a lot of information and to call out truth for ourselves. We cannot any longer depend on anybody to spoon feed us information. We know that the mainstream media has failed, but there's also this balance that we can't completely trust the alternative media, because who knows what's true? Anybody can write anything, right? So there are a few sources that are definitely I consider more trustworthy than others. Certainly Alex Jones, you might think he has a CIA background, whatever. He vets his stories and he only puts out there what he can prove is true. So that right there has some value. Okay, sermon over. The Great Culling, Our Water. This is a neat website that my husband found, Top Documentary Films. And watch free documentaries online. And you can find some great stuff here. And this is certainly helpful information if you are not aware or if you doubt what you've heard about the dangers of things added to our water. So there are a lot of great water filters out there. I hope you're using one. And now, I guess it's appropriate for Memorial Day weekend even though it's past, right? But to just memorialize Poof in the context of alternative media who's really delivering the absolute truth. It's tough to say, but Poof at the very least, was a source of encouragement. And I have an idea that he was some kind of a real intel person, even, maybe related inside the government. I'm not sure. I really don't know. But Poof died this weekend after a short illness. And I think I kind of feel as if he was killed. I don't know any details of his illness. I think the family is being very quiet about it. But it's not beneath these people. And if you follow the revaluation of the dinar and the dong and the global financial reset, as people believe that it's coming, Oki Oil Man is one of the great leaders, one of the great encouragers, he is the great intel guy in that forum. And his house last night, freak wind came up and blew out his windows, and a bunch of tree limbs came in through his windows. I don't want to ignore, the fear factor. I'm not saying this for the fear factor, because we don't fear these people. And Oki lived, and Psalm 118 says, "I will not die but live and declare the works of the Lord." And there are many times when I quote that, when I begin to get into fear about various things. I will not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. But these people are, as with the Blackwater being hired to track Monsanto activists, we're in a battle. And sometimes the other guys get physical. But they mostly, even when they get physical, it's to impose fear and dread on us and to get us into a downward spiral. So knowing that, we can resist that. But God bless Poof, and God bless and help and comfort his family. And I'm just offering my personal thanks for the intel that I heard through him. Speaking of intel, Benjamin Fulford, the tide has definitely turned against the cabal, but some big battles remain ahead. And I typically mention Fulford on Monday, but since I didn't do the video yesterday, it came out very late. This blog came out very late yesterday anyway. I've referred to this before. Usually by Tuesday, someone does a recording of the blog and puts it on YouTube. So this is yesterday's, well, it came out in the evening, and the date on it is today's date. But this is the blog that came out yesterday. You can enjoy that for yourselves. And skeptics who don't like people like Poof and Benjamin Fulford think that they're misleading, or psyops, or Cointelpro, or whatever. A lot of the things that Fulford has been saying would happen have begun to happen. Chief among them, the fact that mainstream media is releasing more articles that pertain to things that, that liberty and truth movement people have been writing about for a long time. And I find this encouraging, that there are levels of breakthrough that are occurring now and that have occurred. UK must hold separate inquiries into each Iraqi civilian death, High Court rules. So as we cry out against the injustices done by the governments of the West, particularly the government of the country where we live, our voice will be heard as, 2 million march about Monsanto, and as more and more people say, you can't do this to me. You can't use my money to kill people without any justification. We believe we've justified war in our minds because self-defense is okay. But these are not defensive wars that the West has been fighting. They are offensive wars to establish banking, to rob these people of their gold and whatever. So we need to call these people into account. And if we can do it through the government that's in place, or better yet, through a de jure government rather than the de facto government, great. We're making progress. This is progress. The fact that they have to give account. Now, will they lie? Will they get off? Maybe. But at least, at least they're realizing they're going to have to give account. There is an accounting that's coming. And for good news, contrary to what, oops, Angelina Jolie, too late for you to get this message. Although, frankly, I'm not sure I really believe that she went through the surgery. I mean, who's going to find out, right? Most disease in America is not genetic, but doctors and media lie so you will accept it and stay sick, and might I add, and buy their drugs. So we know this. I've heard this from Dr. Noah a lot. He has actually a lot of videos on the Dr. YouTube channel about, related to this reality. So disease is far more related to lifestyle than to genes. In fact, if you juice hemp and as if it were wheatgrass and drink the hemp juice, your DNA it repairs your DNA. So lifestyle, and alternative. Alternative medicine. Ayurvedic herbs treat brain and lung cancers, some with 90% success rate. Of course, legally they are not allowed to use the word cure, but you know what? A 90% success rate is a virtual cure. So, good news, good news, good news. The 50-cent tour of the day is a presentation of She Who Will Walk in the Dark Productions. And we thank you for joining in today's tour and for being on the Liberty Bus with us while we consider what's going on. The dawn is coming. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will be encouraged today, that you will be excited, enthusiastic about the future. The Proverbs 31 woman is said to laugh at times to come. When we have hope in God, there's no reason to have any feeling about the future except joyful anticipation. Hoping that you will love one another, take care, and insist on liberty.